All right, here we are. It's election night, and it's time for Weather Geeks. Should be a pretty interesting evening on the political front. On the weather front, well, it was an interesting day today with the wind that was howling out there this afternoon, led to some power outages across parts of the valley, especially up in Trumbull County. At one point, we had over several thousand. I forget the exact number, but there were several thousand customers without power in Trumbull County, a little less so down in Mahoning County, but still, it was impactful this afternoon, the wind. Now, at the Youngstown Warren Airport, at 2 p.m. at the top of the hour, the wind was gusting to 41, but just before 2 p.m., about a quarter till, it gusted to 47. That was the highest gust I saw today. And as of 6 p.m. This evening, we were still gusting up close to 40 miles per hour in Vienna at the airport. Temperatures were mild today. We reached 60 yesterday. We dipped down to 50 this morning, and then we got up actually to 63 in between hours earlier on this afternoon. Probably the last time we're going to see a 60-plus temperature for some time because we got big time changes coming our way, much cooler weather settling in for the middle of the month. We'll talk about that in a little more detail in a second. Now, before the wind really kicked up today, of course, it was the rain that moved in late last night and first thing this morning. This rain tapered off by about daybreak or so in most spots, and as expected, amounts were an average of about a half an inch, generally speaking, some a little more, some a little less, but about a half an inch worth of rain at the start of the day today. That front, the cold front, is now off to our east right about, let's draw it right here. There's our cold front, and we have an area of low pressure spinning up across parts of Michigan this evening, and the pressure gradient's still tight enough that we have some gusty winds. But it'll be a benign night tonight weather-wise aside from that frisky wind. It's getting pretty cold across the middle of the country and up towards the U.S.-Canadian border. 23 this evening in Bismarck, 27 in Fargo. This cooler air mass is coming our way. Now, it's not going to be this cold here yet, maybe next week, but this air mass will moderate some as it comes south and east. So a better day tomorrow. I think we'll see more in the way of sun. Now, it's not going to be as windy as today, but I think the breeze will be noticeable on Wednesday. Perhaps gusting to 25, maybe 30 miles per hour. Not as high as today when we gusted up into the 40s, but still a noticeable breeze. And then a pretty decent Thursday on the way, although it's going to be chilly Thursday. We'll stop at about 43 Thursday afternoon. That's about 7 or 8 degrees cooler than average. All right, interesting little system coming our way on Friday. Now, for the vast majority of Friday, this is just going to be kind of a raw, cold rain that's falling for a lot of the day. But as the precipitation moves in the morning hours, it may be kind of a borderline situation where we see some snowflakes mixed in with the rain for a couple of hours Friday morning. Now, I really don't think this adds up to anything at this point, but something we'll be watching out for is the possibility that this comes in as kind of a mixed bag or maybe even just some plain old wet snow for a brief time before changing over to that chilly rain. Most of Friday, it's rain showers. Now, as we go towards Friday night and Saturday morning and this low pressure area heads off to the east, the wind will come back around to the north, colder air will wrap in, and I think for sure we're going to see a scattering of snow showers around late Friday night and heading into parts of Saturday. Now, this will be a lake effect, lake enhanced situation. Could be several inches, maybe up in Ashtabula County, Erie County, PA, up in southwestern New York, Chautauqua, and Cattaraugus counties. In our television viewing area, north of I-80 in Trumbull and Mercer County, I can't rule out some small accumulations out of this Friday night heading into Saturday. Everywhere we have the chance of seeing a few flurries on Saturday. It's going to be a windy, cold day. I mean, temperatures mid-30s, wind chills probably no better than the 20s on Saturday. Not as harsh then on Sunday as high pressure drifts across. We'll have a decent end to the upcoming weekend, although it's still going to be well below average. And yeah, you know, I showed you this last night. If you watched Weather Geeks last night or followed me on social media today, I've posted about this a couple of times. Next week's pattern is impressively cold. Even as early as this weekend, of course, it's going to get cold with this dip in the jet stream right here. But as we go into next week, especially the middle of next week, a very impressive signature on the modeling here. Models are in very good agreement that by the middle of next week, by Tuesday and especially into Wednesday, big deep trough is going to carve itself out across the Great Lakes, the Northeast, up into Canada. A little spoke of the polar vortex up here across Hudson Bay will drive that air mass south, and you know you can trace these lines all the way up through Canada up to the Arctic Circle. That's where our air mass will have originated from. So a real taste of midwinter next week. Next Wednesday, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a hard time making it above freezing for daytime highs. Overnight lows could be in the upper teens to around 20. And I can't rule out some snow with this as well, middle of next week. Way too early to speculate a lot on that. But yeah, it's a good bet. In fact, I would put money on it if I could, that it's going to be colder than average for the 6 to 10 day period here. You don't often see these purpley colors, these dark purples on this map, but it is a lead pipe cinch that is going to be colder than average for at least a handful of days next week. And you can see that on this graphic. These are the temperatures compared to average. Notice this line is 15 below average. By next Wednesday, we could be as much as 18 degrees below average. Our averages during the middle of next week are in the upper 40s. So you subtract 17 or 18 from that. Yeah, we could have highs 30, 31, 32 for a day or two, maybe even 3, middle of next week. So yeah, impressive stuff for mid-November. It's really been since November of 2014 since we've had that kind of a November Arctic outbreak. All right, as a reminder, again, we are 2 days away from my annual winter forecast on 21 News at 6 and 11. The extended version, it'll be kind of in this format, kind of the Weather Geeks format, but a much longer video. It'll be posted on the website, on the Storm Tracker 21 app. Of course, it'll be linked to on Facebook and Twitter. It'll be on my YouTube channel. All that will go online after the 6 o'clock newscast Thursday evening. I'll probably record that video right around 7 p.m. or so Thursday evening. That video, you know, past years it's run as long as 13, 14, 15 minutes, but, you know, it's geared towards people who not only need a more detailed seasonal forecast, maybe your snowplow business depends on it, anybody whose livelihood depends on winter weather would be interested in that video, plus people who are just into the weather, people who want a behind-the-scenes look at some of the stuff. You know, this longer video will be much more of a look into the why the winter forecast is what it is, in addition to what the forecast actually is. All right, one of the things I'm going to show you on Thursday in that longer video may surprise you. A lot of things may surprise you if you haven't watched one of these winter forecasts before. We look at a lot of things that may surprise you that we're looking at for a winter forecast. Ocean water temperatures, snow cover in Asia, and another thing I'm looking at closely this year, the sun. And while this is a picture from 2009, the sun is in similar shape this year. What do I mean by that? Well, we're heading into what we call a solar minimum. In other words, a minimum number of sunspots on the sun. This goes through a cycle of about every 10 years. You can see it on this graphic. About every 10 years, we reach a minimum. And in between, of course, a maximum number of sunspots. And studies have shown that when the sun is quiet or the sunspots are very minimal, we reach that minimum. That can oftentimes lead to increased blocking in the atmosphere, in the upper atmosphere, over the northern Atlantic Ocean up towards Greenland. When the atmosphere gets blocked up there, if a roadblock gets put up in the atmosphere in that region, that oftentimes forces cold air to come out of Canada and down into the eastern U.S. So the minimum in the sunspot cycle, sometimes, a fair amount of time, leads to or is correlated with increased blocking in the atmosphere in that key region in the northern Atlantic and up towards Greenland. So that's a little bit of a hint as to what my forecast is going to be, I think, as we debut that winter forecast on Thursday. But that's one of the things I'm going to be showing you again and talking a little bit more about. We look at a lot of stuff in addition to computer models, in addition to just our experience and intuition kind of driving the forecast. A lot goes into this. It's not throwing darts at a dartboard, that is for sure. So again, 48 hours away from our winter forecast. In the meantime, check in with us tonight on air and online for the latest election coverage. Our newscast may be on a little bit late tonight. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but one thing for sure, it should be a very interesting evening. All right, I'll see you back here on Wednesday for a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks.